All right, today we're going to tackle something I like to call the imaginary trap. It's one of those math problems that looks super simple on the surface, but there's a catch, a big one, and it trips up almost everybody. So let's dive in. So here it is. What's the value of the square root of negative 25 times the square root of negative 4? Just take a second and think about it. Got an answer? Hold on to that number. We're about to see if you figured it out or if you just walked right into the trap I mentioned. Okay, so first, let's walk down the path most people take. This is the totally logical, intuitive way to solve it. But, spoiler alert, there's a huge flaw hiding in plain sight. You probably remember this rule from math class, right? The square root of a times the square root of b is just the square root of a times b. Easy. You just mush the numbers together under one root. It's a solid rule. It works pretty much all the time. So what could possibly go wrong here? All right, let's just apply that rule. We take our negative 25 and our negative 4 and multiply them under one big square root. So a negative times a negative, that's a positive. We get the square root of 100. And hey, the square root of 100 is just 10. Simple, clean, makes perfect sense, right? Well, here's the kicker. That's wrong. The answer is not 10. Now, if you got 10, don't feel bad. Seriously, you're in good company. You've just fallen for what's known as the negative product trap. So the real question is, what just happened? To see how to solve this, we need to introduce the hero of our story. This is what's going to help us escape the trap. And that hero is a little something called the imaginary unit. So what on earth is an imaginary unit? Well, it's just the letter I, and I is defined as the square root of negative 1. But here's the part you really need to remember, the most important property it has. If I is the square root of negative 1, then it makes sense that I squared is just negative 1. That little factor right there, that's the whole key. Okay, so how do we actually use this thing? Let's take our square root of negative 25. We can break that apart, right? We can think of it as the square root of 25 times negative 1. And from there, we can split it into two roots, the square root of 25 times the square root of negative 1. Well, we know the square root of 25 is 5, and we just defined the square root of negative 1 as I. So, boom, the square root of negative 25 is just 5i. See how that works? Okay, now that we're armed with our new tool, I, let's go back to that original problem. Let's do it the right way this time. Okay, let's break it down. First, we have to rewrite our terms. The square root of negative 25, we just figured that out. That's 5i. And the square root of negative 4? Same logic, that's going to be 2i. So now our problem is just 5i times 2i. Let's multiply the parts. 5 times 2 is 10, and I times I is I squared. And now for the magic step. Remember that key property? I squared equals negative 1, so we just swap it out. We get 10 times negative 1, which gives us the real answer, negative 10. That's it, not positive 10. It's just a sign flip, but it's the difference between being right and being wrong. It shows you the actual logic that was hiding behind that trap all along. Okay, so this has to make you wonder, why does that trap even exist? I mean, why did that rule we all learned in school just completely fail us? It all comes down to knowing where the rule, well, where it stops working. Let's just look at these two paths side by side, because this really makes it clear. On the left, you see the trap. You multiply the negatives together first, you get a positive, and you end up at 10. But on the right, the correct way, you convert to I first. That I carries the negativeness of the number with it, so when you get to I squared, bam, it becomes negative 1, and you land on the right answer, negative 10. And here's the formal reason why. You know that product rule for square roots we thought was so reliable? Turns out it has some fine print. There's an asterisk next to it. The rule is only valid if A and B are not both negative. Yeah. If just one of them is negative, you're fine. If they're both positive, of course you're fine. But the second they are both negative, the rule just breaks. So here's the takeaway, the one thing to burn into your brain. The moment you see two negative numbers inside square roots being multiplied, you just stop. Your first thought, your only first move, has to be to convert them to their I form first. You do that before anything else, and you will never, ever fall for this trap again. So let's just recap the key points real quick. 1, don't just multiply the numbers inside two negative square roots. That's the trap. 2, always rewrite them using I before you do anything else. And 3, the whole thing hinges on that one simple fact. I squared equals negative 1. Don't forget it. And I want to leave you with this one last thought. We call I an imaginary number, which is a kind of weird name, right? But we just used it to solve a problem and get a very real, very correct answer. So, if a so called imaginary number is essential for getting the right answer in certain situations, what does that say about the nature of math itself? How imaginary is it, really? Just something to chew on.